7. Albert Bailey. In 2010, Albert decided to rob a store in Connecticut. His plan? Call the store in advance so that they can have the money ready and Albert can make his escape. Albert's plan was nearly perfect, except for one obvious flaw. The police were waiting outside when Albert came around to pick up his cash. 6. Christopher Briggs. When the Texas native showed up in front of the White House carrying a backpack full of ammo, he was surprised to be arrested. Apparently, he was just going to, quote, shoot a couple of rounds. 5. Michelle Estumian. A California resident, Michelle was arrested for forging prescriptions. During her trial, she brought in a doctor's note to delay her sentencing. It turned out to be a forgery. 4. The Donkey Thieves. Of course, no serious bank robber would ever consider using a donkey as a getaway vehicle. They're way too slow and unreliable. That didn't stop the band of thieves in Juan de Acosta, Colombia. First, they stole Zavi, the donkey. Then they tried to steal the cash. Unfortunately for the thieves, Zavi didn't cooperate and ended up running away with the loot attached to his back. 3. LaDondrell Montgomery. Houston resident LaDondrell was being sentenced to life in prison for armed robbery when his attorney uncovered some very critical evidence. He was in jail at the time of the crime. Although he had insisted on his innocence, LaDondrell had failed to recall that one critical fact. 2. Philomene Caesar. When Pennsylvania robber Philomene decided to represent himself in court, he caused the jury to break out into laughter after asking a witness what the robber sounded like. "He sounded like you," came the surprising response. 1. Levi Charles Reardon. After the city of Great Falls, Montana posted a wanted image on their Facebook page for Levi on charges of forgery, our brilliant mastermind decided to like the post. Not surprisingly, he was arrested a few weeks later. Enjoying our lists? Be sure to click that subscribe button at the bottom right so you don't miss out on new ones every Monday through Friday. Share them with your friends. Although 911 is meant to be for emergencies, dumb 911 calls happen quite often. Today, you're going to hear about some of the funniest 911 calls ever recorded. To be honest, this list might make you feel a little bit better about yourself. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 dumb reasons people have called 911.
Let me take over. Y'all need to clear out though. I can't take over.
25. In 2012, Rother McLennan of Connecticut called 911 after a deli messed up his order. The extremely patient dispatcher told him that if he doesn't like the sandwich, he should just leave the shop. 24. When Elaine Owens saw a fire in her bathroom, she called 911. The fire department showed up to discover that the flames were just sunlight reflecting off of the shower. 23. Rother wasn't the only one having trouble with his sandwich. Reginald Peterson of Jacksonville, Florida, called police when Subway employees left off his sauce. He then called back to complain that officers weren't responding fast enough. If that's not an emergency, I don't know what is. 22. In 2008, John McCain's younger brother called 911 to complain about traffic. The dispatcher told him he couldn't call for non-emergency reasons, to which Joe responded, "You," and hung up. The dispatcher called back and reached the voicemail of Joe McCain that stated, "Sorry, I cannot take your call right now. I'm busy with a family political project." His brother was running for president. The dispatcher left a message telling him that what he did is prosecutable. So Joe did what any lovable politician would do. He called 911 back to complain about the message. 21. In 2011, a British man in Canterbury dialed 999, a British emergency number, to report a massive light source above his house. The dispatcher told him that she would look into it, but the man called back 2 minutes later saying, "You won't believe this. It's the moon." 20. In 2005, a recording surfaced online of a dispatcher fielding a call from an irate California soccer mom whose Burger King burger wasn't being done her way. The dispatcher can be heard telling her, "Ma'am, we're not going to go down there and enforce your Western bacon cheeseburger." 19. When the nail tech didn't do her nails right, Cynthia Colson of Florida called the police. She then called again to ask when the police were going to show up. Then, when the police did show up, she called yet again to complain that nothing was being done. Well, that's not entirely correct. Something was done. Cynthia got taken to jail. 18. When a McDonald's employee forgot to include an orange juice with Raven Osman's order, Raven called the police. After being informed that he was abusing the system and refusing to calm down, he was arrested and had to spend the night in an Oregon jail. 17. Local Cleveland school board member Andrew Mizak was living in his parents' basement when he refused to clean his room. He was 28 years old. His dad called the police, and tearful Andrew later ended up promising to pick up his toys, stuff. The call ended with his dad apologizing to the dispatcher, saying that he didn't want to ruin his son's political career. Apparently, nobody told Papa Mizak that ruining a political career is no longer possible. Next on. 16. In 2006, Michigan police officer Edward Sanchez pocketed some weed during a bust. That evening, he made weed brownies with his wife and ended up calling 911 to tell the operator that he was dead. He's no longer a police officer. 15. In 2006, after a couple of police officers knocked on Oregon resident Lorna Dudash's door to inform her that her music was too loud, Lorna called 911 to get the name of one of the officers. Why? Because she thought he was cute. And that's how Lorna ended up spending the night in jail. 14. After a long night of drinking, Wisconsin resident Mary Stray called 911 to report a dangerous driver. After the dispatcher asked whether she was behind the driver, she replied, "No, I am the driver." You know, good for her, actually. Good for her. 13. When 10-year-old Dan Davis's mom told him to go to bed, he threatened to call 911. When mom tried to call his bluff, he went forward with it. Although Dan wasn't arrested, he did get tucked in by a police officer. 12. In 2010, a Canadian man made repeated calls to 911 asking them to bring the jets from Atlanta back to Winnipeg. After being warned several times, he was told that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were going to come and take him to jail. His response? Can they bring some smokes? 11. In 2013, some crooks butt-dialed 911 in Oklahoma right after robbing a house. Apparently, they were overheard discussing their loot. 10. A woman in Kalispell, Montana told the 911 operator, "My house has a heartbeat," after she called to complain about her neighbor's loud music. I'm still not sure if she was speaking metaphorically. 9. In 2010, Florida resident Charles Dennison called 911 to complain that his mom had taken his beer. It turns out that he was quite intoxicated when making the phone calls. Luckily for Charles, he had plenty of time to sober up in jail. 8. A man from Lincoln, Nebraska called 911 to report that some of his favorite hookah pipes had been stolen. When police arrived, however, they were more interested in the special plants he was growing around the house. Oregano. 7. In 2013, a 4-year-old boy became an internet sensation when a recording of his 911 call was leaked. Apparently, he had called for help with his math homework. The patient operator proceeded to help him with problems like 16 minus 8, which is 8, in case you were wondering. It was.
How do I know this?
When Tennessee resident Orama's boyfriend failed to make up his mind regarding marriage, he resorted to calling 911. She told the dispatcher that he wouldn't make an honest woman of her. Apparently, she was a repeat 911 caller because she eventually ended up getting in trouble for abusing the system. 5. In 2013, dispatchers in Fresno, California got butt-dialed from 2 men who had broken into a car and stolen prescription drugs. 4. Instead of calling Apple to help fix his iPhone, Michael Allen Skopik of Illinois decided to call the police. And not just once, repeatedly. The cops did eventually show up, but not to fix the phone. They took Michael to jail. 3. Texas resident Elsa Benson called 911 in 2009 because her husband wouldn't eat his dinner. Apparently, she had a record of calling 911 for non-emergencies. 2. A burglar in Shelby County, Ohio, accidentally butt-dialed 911 while breaking into a home. He then proceeded to hide in the closet, but when the police arrived, his phone's low battery alarm was 1. In 2009, a woman from Kissimmee, Florida called 911 when she locked herself in her car. If you're wondering how on earth that's even possible, then you can empathize with the dispatcher. After a stunned silence, the dispatcher asked her, "Are you able to pull the lock up on the door? You should still be able to pull the lock up even if it's electrical." The woman, who apparently did not think of this, proceeded to sheepishly thank the dispatcher. So, when have you ever called 911 inappropriately? Let us know in the comments.
Never have.
Losing your job is always a terrible experience, regardless of the circumstances. Usually people get fired because the company's downsizing, they violated the code of conduct, or because they became redundant. However, there are also much more unusual, incredible, and funny reasons to get fired. For this video, we compiled a list with unbelievable stories about getting fired that will leave you scratching your head. I'm Mike with List 25, and from a warehouse worker who was fired for excessive farting to 3 KFC girls who were sacked for bathing in the restaurant sink, check out some of the craziest getting fired horror stories with these 25 stupid reasons to get fired. 25. Dental assistant Melissa Nelson was fired by Iowa dentist James Knight for being too attractive. Knight was pressured into sacking Nelson by his wife, who also worked in his dental office. Oh man. Sucks to be so good looking. You wouldn't know. You can't see, but he's crying. 24. Lifeguard Thomas Lopez was fired for leaving his section after he had run some distance out of his patrol area to save a drowning man on an unpatrolled stretch of beach in Florida. Fired for doing his job. Awesome. 23. Damon Cambridge was dismissed from a book warehouse in Burton, UK for excessive farting after 35 complaints to management about him breaking wind. Cambridge insisted his flatulence problem was just a common side effect of antidepressants he had been taking. 22. Josefina Hernandez, a longtime Walgreens employee with diabetes, was fired for eating a $1.39 bag of chips to boost her blood sugar when she felt an attack of hypoglycemia was coming on. 21. In 2008, a 36-year-old Stacey Fearnall lost her job as a waitress at a restaurant in Owen Sound, Canada, after she shaved her head to raise money for a cancer charity. 20. John Oakes was fired as Santa Claus by an American department store for saying, "Ho, ho, ho." According to the store's management, he was supposed to say, "Ha, ha, ha," as ho is also a slang word for a prostitute. 19. A McDonald's waitress, and I didn't know that was a thing, in the Netherlands was fired after she sold a hamburger to her coworker, who then asked for cheese, which she added. The fast food chain argued this turned the hamburger into a cheeseburger, and so she should have charged more. 18. 30 workers at a Turkmenistan television network were sacked after a cockroach was seen scuttling across the newsreader's desk during a live broadcast. The national
my guy is the player of the fucking half.
He said the unexpected sight had put them off their dinner. 17.
He had 9 rebounds on your head.
A substitute teacher in Bronx, New York, was fired for asking her 4th grade student
He had
for
9
relationship
rebounds.
advice. She had the students role-play conversations with her about it. 16. In one of the craziest getting fired stories ever, a Mexican pilot was sacked for letting the popular singer
I will drop buckets on park,
The singer even posted the photo of her flying the plane on her Twitter account. 15. Teenage office worker
run the whole ball, Jay?
after she posted a Facebook status where she complained that her job at digital marketing and logistics was boring. 14. New Zealander Vicky Walker was sacked for using bold uppercase letters in a group email with detailed instructions on how to fill out forms that she sent to her colleagues. 13.
That's not my man. My man is a glass cleaner.
Vodafone's marketing department.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. That's your man, Shane. Your man's the one dropping buckets.
One of Vodafone's biggest competitors. 12. Juan Canales, a waiter at a restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was fired from his job after he went to the rescue of a woman who was being carjacked from a parking lot near the eatery.
Yeah, you're right.
That's sarcasm.
I want Keem.
11. A size 4 model, Philippa Hamilton, who is 5'10" and 120 pounds, was fired by the American fashion giant Ralph Lauren after an 8-year partnership because she was too fat to fit in the sample sizes.
He got 11 points on your team.
The coach of the girls' basketball team at the Covenant School of Dallas was fired in 2009 because
we should be switching.
Another team.
We should be switching.
Nothing.
He's bigger.
Apologize for the wide margin. Wendy Donovan because she refused to sign a loyalty oath swearing to defend the U.S. and California constitutions against all enemies, foreign and domestic. As a
Shut up! Shut up!
Donovan objected to the California oath as an infringement on her right of free speech and religious freedom. In 2012, 14 people were fired from a law firm in Florida for wearing orange clothes. Wearing orange on Tuesdays was a tradition in the firm, but the new management thought it was a kind of protest against them.
Catch and shoot.
That would not work well in Gates.
That's so deep.
7.
Whoa.
Iowa man John Preston was fired for reenacting an office prank that originated from the show Seinfeld. Preston kept saying, "You're so good looking," instead of "bless you" whenever someone sneezed.
Justin, can you get Joshua in here while his last cleaner and talk? Can you go to bed?
Yeah,
I was hoping you would sneeze.
Because Josh last cleaner
You're
is
so good looking. You're so good looking. You just want me to keep saying that.
Oh,
Y'all getting
yes.
work down there. Y'all getting work down there.
I'm not getting work down there. Brian's getting work down there.
I'm like supposed to box
6.
my guy out.
In 2012, 14 Californian lifeguards were fired for performing a parody of the famous Psy song Gangnam Style. Rather than being amused by the video, lifeguard superiors said it was inappropriate, and they decided to terminate the lifeguards' contracts.
Nah, every time you don't move out, I assume you gonna leave because you did that shit to me twice already.
We gotta win that. This would be so
Iowa man Richard Eggers, that's a great last name, was fired by Wells Fargo Home Mortgage Division.
He weighs more than me. He's trash though.
Nearly 50 years prior. Back then, in 1963,
Flop.
he got caught using a
You
cardboard
flop.
cutout of a dime to run a laundromat washing machine while he was a teenager.
Oh, I'm about to
That's stuff you see in cartoons. Like where they tie the...
Somebody's spamming at all times. Let's go.
Thank you.
What did you do in
4. 2 nurses from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin were fired for misconduct after they posted a patient's X-ray on Facebook. The patient in question allegedly had a certain device lodged in his rectum. Hence, interest on the part of the nurses. 3. A Comcast technician in the Washington, D.C. area was probably so tired of fixing a straightforward internet connection issue that he fell asleep on a customer's couch. He was fired immediately. 2. Staten Island EMT Mark Musarella lost his job with the Richmond University Medical Center after snapping a picture of a murder victim and posting the photo on his Facebook profile.
I'm fasted.
Yeah, don't do that. 1. In 2008, 3 KFC workers were fired for bathing in the restaurant sink. The girls, all from Anderson, California, stripped down to bikinis to relax after a long shift at the fast food chain, and one of them decided to post the photos they took on her MySpace page. What's the silliest, dumbest, whatever reason you got fired?
Corner specialist.
Local list 25, and here are 25 dumb reasons school children have been suspended.
Shut up, bitch. Nigga, you even told me this shit is different.
Yo, how is this AI getting all these boys over here?
25. For texting in class. School can be boring. That was the case for a 14-year-old Wisconsin girl who decided to pass some time by texting. However, when asked to stop, the 14-year-old ignored the request until security officers arrested her under the charge of disorderly conduct. To be fair, you shouldn't text in class.
Oh, man.
Be arrested for texting. 24. We're having a quote-unquote food fight.
Break
A group
down.
of kids between 11 and 15 years old was arrested in Chicago
Katie's jumper.
because of a cafeteria food fight.
Mm.
Reports say that one student crossed the school, someone else threw an orange, another yelled, "Food fight!" and
That's great. Yeah, right.
23 for hacking a computer in order to change their grades. In 2013,
Nigga, what are you
high
doing?
school students who were on the verge of failing their classes were arrested after officials found out that they hacked into their teachers' computers and improved their grades. The 3 students were booked at the Juvenile Detention
Nigga,
Center
walk
on
the
felony
three-point
charges
line.
of tampering with public records and computer tampering. 22 for missing too many classes.
Yo, y'all getting
Diane
munched
Tran,
down
an
there.
honor student at back in 2012, was jailed for missing school. Believe it or not, the 17-year-old girl was forced to spend a night in jail just because she was working 2 jobs to support her 2 younger siblings. 21 for quote-unquote passing gas. A student at a Florida school was arrested after authorities said he was passing gas in off his classmates' computers. According to a report by the Martin County Sheriff's Office, the 13-year-old boy continually disrupted his classroom environment by intentionally breaking wind.
I don't care.
20 for quote-unquote sexual harassment. A 6-year-old girl was arrested and charged with sexual battery for some inappropriate touching during a tag at an elementary school in San Francisco. Apparently, her crime was that she grabbed one of her schoolmates' thighs. 19 for kissing a schoolmate. Believe it or not, police were called to a Florida elementary school to investigate allegations of 2 7-year-olds who kissed on the lips. The incident report lists the description as lewd and lascivious. However, after speaking with the witness the incident, the deputies concluded that there was no indication that there was anything sexual about the alleged kiss. The glaring eye goes to exclusions on this one. 18 for changing her friend's name in the yearbook. In 2013, a Missouri student who changed her friend's name in their yearbook to a sexually suggestive word saw her practical joke backfire on her, as she later had to face criminal charges. Caitlin Booth, 17, was arrested after
Nigga, we're gonna get 8 seconds.
school in Columbia. She altered Reagan Mastain's name to read masturbate. Not that tasteful indeed, but is that enough reason to arrest a 17-year-old teenager? 17 for yelling. At some high school in Connecticut, a 17-year-old boy was brutalized for arguing and yelling. To be more specific, the unlucky teen was thrown to the floor and tasered 5 times because he was yelling at a cafeteria worker. 16 for being too lively. In 2015, a Stockton, California student had his hands and feet zip-tied, was forced to go to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation, and was charged with battery of a police officer. The student was only 5 years old, and his crime was that he was too excited. 15 for climbing on furniture. In what might be one of the most obscene cases I've ever heard, a police officer in San Mateo, California, blasted a 7-year-old special education student in the face with pepper spray because he would not stop climbing on furniture. 14 for kissing a classmate. In 2015, a young student faced an assault charge after he attempted to kiss one of his fellow classmates on a dare. Baltimore County Police were called to the scene after they were contacted by officials at Pikesville Middle School and arrested the 13-year-old boy. 13 for carrying a plastic butter knife. At a school in Florida, I'm sensing a pattern here. An 11-year-old student was arrested, thrown in jail, and charged with a 3rd-degree felony for bringing a plastic butter knife to school. Not quite sure how a plastic butter knife could harm anyone, but the guys in charge went out of their way in this case. 12 for talking on the phone. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, a 14-year-old girl was tasered in the groin by a school security officer, even though she had her hands up in surrender. She was walking along Washington Street after school with 2 female companions. Police tried to get students to move along with verbal commands. Most listened, but some remained in the middle of the street, talking on phones, texting, or just not moving. You can pick your rest. 11 for bringing the quote-unquote wrong meal to school. The 17-year-old honor
So that's who goes the worst three. That's who goes the worst freaking football game I watched all season. I could have done us using that time to. I could have done us use that time to study, fam.
And the police charged her with a misdemeanor. 10.
How about you defend your man?
For airplanes, a little too much. A student in some junior high school in Texas was reportedly arrested in 2009 for for throwing paper airplanes in class. 9.
Oh
For being angry. We all remember Haley, the 6-year-old girl with temper issues who would often be disruptive at school, throwing objects, hitting administrative personnel, and screaming uncontrollably. On one occasion in 2010, after Haley wouldn't calm down, a deputy decided to handcuff the 40-pound girl to get her under control. 8. For doodling on a desk. In 2010, a 12-year-old girl at school in Forest Hills, New York, was arrested and marched out of her school in handcuffs because she doodled on her desk. Her crime was that she scribbled, "I love my friends, Abby and Faith." 7. For breaking up. A teenage couple at a high school in Houston poured milk on each other during a fight while they were breaking up. Instead of being sent to the principal, they were arrested and sent to court. Apparently, breaking up in some Houston schools is illegal. 6. For dropping a cake on the floor.
Way.
Oh, wow.
A security guard at a school in California broke the arm of a 16-year-old girl while arresting her because she left crumbs on the floor after cleaning up some cake that she had dropped. Happy birthday to the ground. 5. For carrying a lot of money. In Albuquerque, a student didn't get arrested exactly, but was forced by the officers to strip down in his underwear while 5 adults, including the cops, watched. The reason for all this? Well, the unlucky boy had $200 in his pocket.
I'm not, bro.
A 13-year-old boy got handcuffed and hauled off to a juvenile detention center for burping in class, according to a civil rights lawsuit filed against an Albuquerque, again, public school principal, a teacher, and a city police official. At the same time, the district was also sued by the family of a 7-year-old autistic boy who was handcuffed to a chair. 3. For being inventive. Ahmed Muhammad, who dreamed of becoming an engineer, went to his high school in Irving, Texas, wanting to impress his teacher with a digital clock he made from a pencil case. However, the 14-year-old's day ended not with praise, but with punishment after the school called the police who arrested the boy for allegedly bringing a hoax bomb to school. Following the incident, the police determined Muhammad had no malicious intent and was not charged with any crime. 2. For opening a Christmas gift early. Even though this 12-year-old South Carolina boy wasn't technically arrested in school, I couldn't leave his case off the list because of how insane it is. This boy was arrested after his mother phoned police to say he had opened one of his Christmas presents early. Police arrived and
He's a glass cleaner.
for opening an $85 Game Boy.
I weigh 110 pounds.
Did he at least get to keep the Game Boy?
I weigh 210 pounds.
Like many young female students, Sarah Bustamante's wanted to look and smell good.
Shut up,
Her
bitch.
classmates often told her that she smelled bad and thought of her for being weird. So on one of these occasions, 12-year-old Bustamante
Whoever sells his last possession
sprayed herself twice. Unfortunately, an officer who routinely patrols the halls was called in, and Sarah was charged with criminal misdemeanor.
Oh my god!
Ryan!
Oh my god!
Ryan!
Enjoying our lists? Be sure to click that subscribe button in the top right corner so you don't miss out on new ones every Monday through Friday. Share them with your friends and help us consistently. Sometimes people empower
Hold the ball.
Sometimes these people like to enforce their personal morality.
Oh, Jada.
Sometimes people create really vague laws that become outdated quickly. Whatever the reason, there are some really crazy laws out there. Curious about what surprising laws you might be breaking? Well, I'm Mike with List 25, and from breastfeeding to singing in your swimsuit, here are 25 crazy laws.
Good day. We got that.
In New York, men can be subjected to a $25 fine for flirting. While I'm pretty sure that this is one of those old laws that never gets enforced anymore, how did they think babies have me? 24. It's actually illegal in the U.S. to connect to non-password protected Wi-Fi.
I would like to go into the park.
Even if that Wi-Fi is open to the public, like a cafe. Again, this is really
I would like to go into the park.
It can be, and people have been fined for connecting to public Wi-Fi without buying anything. Put the password on the receipt, guys. Not that hard. How about we make it illegal for your password to be password with a 0 or any variation thereof? 23. In the UK, if you vacuum or Hoover after 8 p.m., you could be responsible for a nuisance charge because your vacuum makes too much noise. 22. If you leave your Christmas decorations...
Are you kidding me? I dropped points, nigga!
No laws on the books about Hanukkah decorations, though. 21. Wearing slippers is illegal after 10 p.m. if you're in New York State. Doesn't it get cold up there? Who could possibly ever even a little bit enforce this? Is this one of those laws that people pass just to see if legislators read laws? So many questions. 20. Breastfeeding your baby in public is actually
how you feel, Joe?
In Idaho, there's no specific protection for breastfeeding mothers that exempts them from nudity and
Nigga, I went through Town Park though, like
every other state in Washington, D.C. This means